Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I've been convinced to make a Dota video. I've been playing Dota for a very long time, and I was convinced to make a guide because, and I probably should have made this a long time ago because I've seen over the years tons of guides, but they only come from people who, are at super high MMR and they don't understand the trenches this day and age because they climbed like 10 years ago and they don't know what the trenches are anymore. When I mean trenches, I mean like Herald, the Herald, Guardian, Crusader format of medals. So you're gonna get advice from stuff that worked from like 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago. It's not really gonna work in this day and age. So what happened like 10 years ago when you look up a Steam forum, or like you go on Google and you look at Reddit and you're gonna get like comments from like 5 to 10 years ago saying like this and this happened, or this and this, can't play this well, or something like that. But not really relevant today. The game has changed completely compared to where it was before. So people in Herald, they know what smokes are, they know what wards are. People in Crusader know what smokes are, they know what wards are, they know what this and that are. But if you look up videos and guides like 10 years ago, you're gonna say like, oh, Heralds don't know what a smoke of deceit is. They know what they are nowadays, and I know that because I was in the trenches. Years ago I was in this metal. I had legend, and then I quit the game for all because I was really busy with life, and I came back recently, 2013, and now I'm trying hard again, and I worked my way all the way from Herald because there was like an adjustment. There was an MMR adjustment. I got knocked all the way back down to Herald and some, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But I worked my way all the way from Herald in 2013 to now back to where I originally was years ago. And so I'm going to tell you guys how to get out of this from someone who got from that bracket to this bracket where I'm at currently in a recent year. Last year I was in Herald. Literally I was in Herald again. So first of all, something that I will agree with completely. Sorry for all the noises, by the way. I have insane allergies. Anyways, something I definitely agree with. Never blame your teammates. I know it's easy to get heated sometimes, and nobody's perfect, including myself. Even high MMR players do this, but in general, you should not be blaming your teammates. And the reason for that is it's really obvious because you're being queued up with them, so they're just as good or bad as you are currently. And if you want to climb MMR, if you want to get the higher number, you need to be better than all of your opponents and your teammates. But it's not 2016 anymore. 1v9ing is a lot harder than it used to be. This game is way more centered around teammate coordination than it used to. But it's still possible. Sometimes you can 1v9. Your teammate may be able to 1v9 for you. Sometimes you're gonna get carried. Sometimes you'd carry. And keep in mind, this is a video that's gonna be more centered on being like position 1 or 2 or 3. I will make a small mention of 4 and 5 because I did climb back in the day. I gained over 1,000 MMR just playing support, but I'm gonna leave that till the very end. But for now, we're going to be talking about carry roles. So in carry roles, if you're someone who gets angry at your teammates, I think the best option for you is to go right into the game, go right up to that the 3 slashes at the top, and mute all of your teammates, and mute everybody, even the enemies. Mute everybody immediately, because guess what? You're wasting valuable time typing and getting mad at them. And they're also wasting time typing back to you instead of playing the game. Remember, guys, these little MMRs, just play the game. It's never GG until the agent falls. Sometimes, they overextend, they dive the fountain, and they die, 3 of them die, and you get like 3,000 gold off of that. So, number 1, don't blame your team. Number 2, mute everybody if you are prone to, getting angry. Number 3, don't give up so easily. Some games are like 50 to 10, and obviously those games are over. But those games don't happen all the time, and there are ways to prevent that. So, if you keep these 3 things in mind, don't blame your team. Mute everybody if you are prone to that, and also don't give up. Don't give up ever, unless it's like super stomping. You're just like whatever, but you should generally never give up. So, you may know, if you go on Pro Tracker, Dota 2 Pro Tracker or Dota Buff, you might be looking at all these items, the item builds and like all these pros and how MMR players are doing. You don't really shouldn't be looking at those. You're not going to understand, in general, most of you guys may not understand what they're building for. They may be building for a specific meta in their MMR that may not apply to you in your MMR. So, in general, you should not be taking advice from Dota Buff or Pro Tracker in terms of item. In terms of heroes, yes, definitely look at the heroes. Hero percentages. You shouldn't be picking something that has like 30% win rate. You probably should avoid that. But you shouldn't be looking at item builds. You should be looking at, why are they building them this way? Why are they doing this or that? And I've been coaching, some of my guild mates for the past few weeks, and one of the main things I've seen, and this is probably the top priority of your list, item progression, item timings, and why should you build this or that over this or that. So, I think the best example, and this is just an easy example, an introductory example. So let's say I am playing X carry, safe lane carry, it doesn't matter which carry I'm playing. And the enemy carry is a weaver. The enemy safe lane carry is a weaver. What should we build? What messes up the weaver's game completely? Silences. If you cannot move around, if you cannot, do things, he's not going to be able to play the game. Orca Malevolence is one of the biggest strengths against Weaver in the entire game, and against some other enemies, but this is the best, beginning example. So, you build an Orchid after you build, some beginner items, like some smaller items, and now you go around killing Weaver over and over, and now he's going to start crying. And now he has to build a BKB, which you probably won't do in your MMR. I mean, most times they don't. He might understand what a Manta is. He might understand what a Manta is. He probably knows what a Dispel is. So eventually he'll build something, but now you had to go out of your way to do that. While you're killing him over and over, and he's struggling to build the Manta or BKB, you're already getting better items. You're already another item over him. So, the best thing to understand, in the first 15 seconds of the game, you need to know what you're building. I want to build this and this and this, and of course that'll change if something happens where you're like delayed and you just give up on the item, but generally speaking, if I'm facing something, if the enemy, let's say for example, the enemy has a silencer on the enemy team, like I said enemy twice, so if they have an enemy silencer, what should you build? It depends on what year you are, but there are certain situations where you can get through his silence. Of course, now he has the facet. Let's say he doesn't pick that one where it silences again, but in general, if you're a spellcaster like Zeus, of course you'd want to have a Yule's, or if you're a agility carry, typically you'd want a Manta, because BKB, of course, but you're not going to get BKB at 15 or 20 minutes unless you're a pushing strat and you need to get BKB right away. But typically you're going to be getting BKB 25 to 30 minutes, maybe a little bit, maybe 32 minutes, etc. So Manta is a very easy option against that. That's a pretty easy counter. So another item progression you should be looking out for is Silver Edge against certain carries or heroes like Bristleback, against Timbersaw, against Tidehunter, maybe even. Against, certain carries that require the use of their passive. So I think those are like the beginner level entry ones that most people know nowadays, but still good to talk about them. I wouldn't really worry about too much about hero counters in your MMR. Especially if you're a Herald, just play your best hero. Just play your best hero. Even if you're playing like Slark against Bloodseeker, it doesn't really matter in the grand scope of things, because you're playing your best hero, and you might still win. So I really wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, unless it's like a really obvious counter, you probably want to avoid that. But in general, you really shouldn't worry about hero counters too much. You should more worry about building items to beat the enemy carry. Like, for example, I am playing, let's say, what kind of mid? Timbersaw. Okay, I'll play Timbersaw. And the enemy carry is a Wind Ranger. What item should I build to counter the Wind Ranger that probably doesn't know how to cancel her ulti? Blade Mail. She will kill herself on Blade Mail, because she most likely won't be able to press the S button, because probably in the MMR she probably doesn't know how to do that. So that's an easy counter. Other counters like Blade Mail against magic damage dealers, against, you know, stuff like Keeper of the Light, against Lina, against Lich, even maybe perhaps. You know, Blade Mail is pretty good on certain heroes. It's a good counter. So that's one item progression. If you're playing like a tanky strength hero, Blade Mail is typically always going to be a good option for you. And so team, I mean, you can work with your team if they are talkative, but most times they're probably just going to be, you know, not talking at all and just playing their own game. So you kind of have to take the game into your own hands. You have to be the star player pretty much every game. You have to be the star player. Just no matter what role you're playing, you have to be the star player. You have to be the guy that's going to be doing overachieving, because that's the only way you're going to climb. You can't rely on your teammates to carry you every single game. You have to be the one that carries them, and that's unfortunately just how the MMR works. You have to be the best person on your team in order to progress, to get higher MMR, to get more medals, things of that nature. So if you're here's a really easy thing not to do. If you've been doing this, I am slapping you in the face. Don't do this. If you pick Lion or Shadow Shaman and you buy Ags first, probably not a good idea. That's over 4,000 gold you're spending to do what? Nothing. They don't do anything. Like buying Ags first item on Witch Doctor is just not good. So you guys in Herald, don't buy Ags first item on support. Instead, you should be buying Glimmer Capes and Force Staffs. And I know that's boring. It's boring to do that, but you'll win more games having those items than having an Ags. And I saw that a lot of my games that I was climbing up in Herald and guarding Crusader, people would be buying Ags first item on a lot of these heroes. Don't do that. Don't be like everybody else. If you wanna stay the same, then by all means continue to do the same strategy that's losing you games. But if you want to win, start changing your item builds up a little bit. You might be saying, "Hey, this hero's not working out for me. Why am I losing when I go into the item builds and I see, like, you know, Ag's first item on Witch Doctor and stuff?" Like, don't do that. Glimmer Cape Force Staff. You can never go wrong with those two items on a support. You literally can never go wrong. Most people are not going to buy Dust, especially carries. Sometimes they will, especially if the enemy team really wants to win, like they really want to win, they're going to buy Dust. But you still have a Force Staff. That's why you have the combination. Next thing to worry about is win rates, and this is something you actually do have to worry about. So if you're picking a hero that just got nerfed, like really hard, let's say for example Sand King, he's still pretty good, but he got a pretty big nerf. So if you're like a big Sand King player and you're like level 30, then you're probably still gonna pick him. But if you're only picking him because of his high win rate and you're jumping on the hype train, you should probably drop him. And that kind of goes for the same thing with a lot of stuff in this category here. If you only picked a hero because they got buffed and then they got nerfed, you should probably move on to something else, and you should only stick to like 5 heroes for what you're playing. So if you're playing mid, Zeus got pretty bigly nerfed. I can't seem to win with him as much as I used to. I have a lot of losses with him right now, so I'm thinking of just dropping Zeus because he's just not doing it for me. So if you're a Zeus player and like he lost a lot of tools that he needed. So you're probably gonna move on to someone else, and that's kind of just how the game goes. Look at all the heroes on the screen. There's tons of heroes to pick through. So if you lost one hero, you got to pick up another one. You got to adapt because everybody else is adapting, or staying the same. And you should be going over those kind of players that are staying the same. If the enemy team is picking heroes that are out of meta or out of favor, losing win rate percentages, then you need to take advantage of that. I think one best lane example is Wraith King. If you're playing Wraith King safe lane carry, you need to know how to pressure lanes. He's a lane pressure carry. So if you're passively AFK farming at level 6 in the lane, you're not playing your hero correctly. You need to leverage your level 6 ulti. You have 2 lives. The enemy team does not have 2 lives. So what you would do is you start being more aggressive, not like chasing them under tower, but being more assertive in lane, like start contesting denies and last hits. Start, poking at them a little bit more, because now you have 2 lives. They're like, oh geez, this dude has 2 lives, what am I gonna do about that, So that's like an easy thing to do. But in general, if you're winning your lane super hard, if you're a mid laner and you have 2 levels over your opponent, don't AFK farm because you're just letting them catch up. I mean, that's a pretty obvious thing to do, right? But I see some people don't do this. They're still AFK farming. They're passive. If you are so many levels above your opponent, you need to be more aggressive. You need to be more assertive. You need to pressure them out of lane. You need to kick them out of the lane. They shouldn't even be there. If they're level 4 and you're level 7, they shouldn't even be in the lane. They should be out. You should be giving them the boot. So be more assertive in lane. Don't be so passive. Learn more about creep I can't even say it. Equilibrium. That's not how you say it, but close enough. So those are just some tips that I just wanted to pass on. Just a few. I didn't write a script or anything. These are just some things that I've been teaching people recently. Biggest things to worry about: item timings, item builds. You shouldn't be building your Radiance at 30 minutes. You shouldn't be building a Desolator at 40 minutes. You shouldn't be building like an early to mid game item at like 40 to 50 minutes. You shouldn't be going. Don't go back for items. You should be only going forward. For example, if you skipped Echo Saber on Wraith King or another carry, and it's like 20 to 25 minutes, you probably shouldn't go back for it. You should only be looking forward, not backwards. What's another good example? Like, what's another good example? Like Luna. You shouldn't be going back for like a Mask of Madness if the item timing is off and you already have your Manta. You probably shouldn't be going back for a smaller item. I think that's about it for that was just a very quick 18 minutes is quote unquote quick. But I think that's about it. I think that wraps it up. Biggest thing I see a lot of people have is just struggling with item timings and item progression. That if you know more about item progression and item times, you're already going to have a huge advantage over your opponent that may not know about item timings. They're probably going to be building a Radiance on Wraith King at 35 minutes, while you already have a better understanding of the item progression on your hero. And that's gonna gain you at least 500 to 1,000 MMR more than your opponent, because you're gonna have more knowledge than they do. So just look at your heroes. What should I build? I should be building like if I'm playing Wraith King, I should be building, Bracer. Bracer is a very good cheap item on him, and it gives him some stats and gives him some int for some mana regen. It gives them some HP regen. I'm building phase boots. I'm building the Radiance or the armlet. I'm building the blade mail. I'm building the the Deso, one of those items. You gotta do item progression. Don't look back. Look forward. Always look forward. Never look back. And I think you're gonna succeed. If you have any questions, let me in the comment section down below. I think I had more things to talk about, but I was waiting so long to come home and do this video, and I had so many things to talk about, and I kind of forgot most of it, but I think I hammered down most of it for you guys. If you are a Dota Plus subscriber, you can look at trends as well. To look at heroes that may be doing really well. You may be coming back into the game and saying, hey, I used to play Night Stalker all the time. And then you see that he's doing really well. Like, I want to play Night Stalker again. What happened? What happened with him? So you go here, you can go to changes, and you can look at all the things that he got changed over the past year. Typically, you should only be looking at like the last few patches, because if you look this far back, it's not going to be that impactful. But the changes tab is for free, by the way. You don't have to have a subscription for that. And it's one of the best things to look at when you're coming back into the game, or someone who's not really familiar with a certain hero. Hey, what happened with this hero recently? What happened with this hero in the last month? So that's a good option for you guys as well. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Appreciate you. And if I missed anything, if I missed a certain topic that you really want to know about, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.